How to Think Beyond Limits. Introduction. Every great invention, every revolutionary idea, every life-changing breakthrough began with someone who refused to think like everyone else. They saw a wall and asked, "Why can't I walk through it?" They heard, "That's impossible," and replied, "Not for me." Most people live inside a mental box, built by fear, comfort, routine, and silent rules they never question. From an early age, we're taught to follow the path of least resistance, to color within the lines, to accept what we're told without asking why. But that box, it's not real. It's a prison disguised as logic, designed not to keep you safe, but to keep you small. In this book, we'll shatter those mental chains and explore how to escape ordinary thinking, not by rejecting reason, but by reimagining what's possible. You'll learn to challenge the boundaries that once confined you, question assumptions that once defined you, and think in ways most people are too afraid to consider. Because the truth is, your greatest breakthroughs won't come from following the crowd. They'll come from thinking beyond the limits they told you to accept. And once you see beyond the box, you can never go back. Chapter 1. Break the illusion of limits. Most people are trapped in an invisible mental prison, and they don't even realize it. This prison isn't made of bricks or steel. It's made of ideas, beliefs, and silent rules passed down by parents, teachers, culture, and fear. From a young age, we're told what's possible and what's not. We're taught to follow certain paths, to dream only within a safe range, and to stay within the boundaries of what society deems normal. But these walls, they aren't real, they're illusions, constructed from words like, "You should do this," "You must not do that," or "That's just how it's always been done." These ideas are not truths. They're habits of thought repeated so often that they start to feel like reality. Thinking out of the box begins with one critical step: recognizing that the box even exists. And that box is shaped by limitations you didn't choose, but you've been living by. Every time a thought pops into your mind like, "I could never do that," or "That's not realistic," ask yourself, where did that belief come from? Who told me that was true? And more importantly, is it actually true, or just a limitation I've accepted without questioning? The people who change the world, innovators, creators, visionaries, aren't necessarily smarter than everyone else. They're just more courageous. They refuse to accept the default settings of life. They don't ask for permission to think differently. Instead of following the map everyone else uses, they create their own path. To break the illusion of limits, you must become aware of the thoughts that keep you small. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, the need for approval, the comfort of certainty. These are the mental barriers that keep people stuck in the same place for years. But once you see that these limits are self-imposed, you begin to take back your power. This chapter is about reclaiming your freedom to imagine, to explore, to question everything. Stop asking, "What am I allowed to do?" and start asking, "What am I capable of?" Challenge the stories you've been told about your worth, your potential, and your future. Tear down the mental boundaries that define what's realistic, and you'll begin to see a world full of new options, where others only see dead ends. Because the truth is, the only real limits are the ones you choose to believe in. Would you like me to expand Chapter 2 next, in the same long, clear, and detailed style? Chapter 2. Adopt the beginner's mind. One of the biggest obstacles to thinking beyond limits is believing you already know how everything works. When you carry the mindset of an expert, you close yourself off from learning, questioning, and discovering new perspectives. The more certain you are, the smaller your thinking becomes. But when you adopt the beginner's mind, everything changes. The beginner's mind is a concept from Zen philosophy that means approaching life with openness, curiosity, and no preconceived ideas. Imagine the way a child looks at the world, eager to learn, unafraid to ask questions, excited to try new things, even if they don't fully understand them yet. That's the power of a beginner's mind. It allows you to see opportunities where others see obstacles. It gives you the freedom to explore without fear of being wrong. It opens doors that a rigid mind will never notice. In a world that rewards certainty and expertise, it takes courage to say, "I don't know, but I'm willing to learn." Most people are so afraid of appearing foolish that they stop asking questions. They stop experimenting. They stop growing. But real growth only happens when you step into the unknown with humility and curiosity. The greatest minds, Einstein, Da Vinci, Tesla, they all approached problems like students, not masters. They questioned what others accepted. They played with ideas. They remained open to the possibility that what they knew could be wrong. Adopting the beginner's mind doesn't mean rejecting your experience or knowledge. It means not letting what you think you know blind you to new possibilities. It means holding your beliefs loosely and staying flexible in your thinking. The moment you believe there's only one way to do something, you limit yourself. But when you stay mentally flexible, you start to see 100 different paths, and one of them could lead to a breakthrough. To begin thinking outside the box, let go of the need to always be right. Let go of the pressure to have all the answers. Be willing to look foolish. Be willing to try something that might not work. That's where true creativity lives, in the freedom to explore without judgment. Remember, every master was once a beginner. Every expert once said, "I don't know." The difference is, they kept learning, they kept questioning, and they never lost the wonder that made them look at the world like it was brand new. In your journey to think beyond limits, don't try to prove how much you know. Instead, start asking better questions. Stay curious, stay open, and most of all, stay humble enough to be a student for life. Chapter 3. Question the rules that don't serve you. Every society, every culture, and every environment operates on a set of invisible rules. These rules aren't written in stone, yet they shape our decisions, control our behavior, and define our beliefs about what's possible. Some rules are useful. They keep order, promote safety, and help people live together peacefully. But many other rules go unquestioned for generations, even when they no longer serve us. And that's where the box tightens. From the time we're young, we're taught how things are supposed to be. We're told to get good grades, find a stable job, work hard, buy a house, retire at 65. We're told what success looks like, how to behave, who to admire, and even what kind of life is worth living. But very few people stop and ask, who made these rules? Do they actually make sense for me? Are they helping me grow or keeping me small? Thinking beyond limits requires courage, not just to dream big, but to challenge the very foundation your current thinking rests on. Because if you don't question the rules that built your mental framework, you'll stay trapped in someone else's version of life. You'll continue to operate under expectations and restrictions that were never yours to begin with. Here's the truth. A lot of the rules you live by were created by people no smarter than you. They were shaped by fear, by outdated systems, by people trying to stay comfortable rather than grow. That's why true freedom begins with awareness. It begins when you shine a light on these silent commandments and ask, does this belief support the life I want, or does it limit me without reason? For example, if you believe that failure is bad, you'll never take meaningful risks. If you believe you have to follow one path forever, you'll ignore new opportunities. If you believe you're too old, too young, too late, or not qualified, you've accepted a rule that was never yours to carry, and it's time to let it go. This isn't about rebelling against everything. It's about conscious living. It's about choosing your beliefs instead of inheriting them. The most successful and fulfilled people in the world are those who took time to question the script handed to them and rewrote it on their own terms. So start asking bold questions. Why do I believe this? Where did this rule come from? Is it universally true or just a habit of thought? You'll be shocked at how many limits you've been following without ever realizing they were optional. Remember, the rules that work for others might not work for you. You are not here to fit into a mold. You are here to shape your own path. And that begins the moment you stop asking for permission and start questioning the rules that never made sense in the first place. Chapter 4. Learn to love failure. Failure. Just the word makes most people uncomfortable. It brings back memories of embarrassment, rejection, disappointment, and shame. From school exams to job interviews to personal goals, we're trained to see failure as something to avoid at all costs. Society celebrates success stories, not the stumbles that came before them. But if you want to truly think beyond limits, you must completely rewire how you see failure. You must stop fearing it and start welcoming it as part of your growth. The most successful people in history aren't those who never failed. They're the ones who failed often and learned from it. Thomas Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's not just clever optimism. It's a mindset rooted in understanding that failure is not the opposite of success. It's the path to it. When you're afraid of failure, you play small. You avoid risks. You choose comfort over possibility. You cling to what you already know instead of exploring what could be. But failure is one of life's most honest teachers. It strips away illusions. It reveals your weaknesses, your blind spots, and your habits. But it also shows you what doesn't work, so you can adjust, improve, and evolve. The reason most people stay inside the mental box is because they want to be safe. They fear the sting of messing up. But the box isn't safe. It's suffocating. It keeps you in patterns that no longer serve you. And every time you avoid failure, you also avoid the lesson it carries. Think of a baby learning to walk. They don't take one step, fall, and say, "Maybe walking isn't for me." They fall again and again, but never give up. Why? Because failure isn't even part of the equation. It's expected. It's necessary. But as adults, we lose that resilience. We start to associate mistakes with our identity. We make failure mean something about who we are instead of what we tried. And that's the real danger. Not failure itself, but what we make it mean. To think beyond limits, you must learn to separate outcome from worth. Just because something didn't work out doesn't mean you are a failure. It means you had the courage to try, and that is already a win. Every attempt moves you forward, sharpens your skills, strengthens your character. The pain of failure is temporary. The regret of not trying is permanent. If you want to live a bold life, you have to take bold actions, and bold actions sometimes lead to failure. But here's the secret. Failure isn't falling down, it's staying down. As long as you get back up, wiser, tougher, clearer, you haven't failed. You've evolved. So reframe it, welcome it, even celebrate it. Every failure brings you closer to mastery. Every setback is a stepping stone. Don't let the fear of falling keep you from flying. Failure is not your enemy, it's your mentor. And the moment you learn to love it, is the moment your limits start to break. Chapter 5. Combine unrelated ideas. One of the most overlooked secrets to thinking beyond limits is this: innovation often comes not from creating something entirely new, but from connecting two things that were never meant to go together. The human brain is a natural pattern maker, but most people only connect ideas within the same category. They stay inside familiar lanes, and that's exactly what keeps them stuck. The greatest breakthroughs don't come from linear thinking. They come from intersectional thinking, where ideas from different fields, backgrounds, or cultures collide in unexpected ways. Think about the smartphone. It's not just a phone. It's a computer, a camera, a map, a music player, a social hub, all packed into one device. That wasn't pure invention from scratch. It was the genius of combining multiple existing technologies in a fresh, cohesive way. Steve Jobs once said that creativity is just connecting things. He believed that the more diverse experiences you have, the more dots you can connect, and the more original your thinking becomes. But to do that, you have to intentionally step outside of your comfort zone. You must expose your mind to things it's not used to. Read books outside your field. Travel to unfamiliar places. Talk to people with different worldviews. Learn skills unrelated to your current goals. At first, it might seem random, but over time, these new experiences start forming mental bridges. You begin to see connections others miss. You start asking questions others would never think to ask. You begin to build ideas from a place of synthesis, not just repetition. For example, Leonardo da Vinci wasn't just a painter. He was a scientist, an engineer, a biologist, and a philosopher. His mind roamed freely between disciplines, and that's what made him a true visionary. He used his knowledge of anatomy to improve his art. He used his art to visualize scientific theories. His genius wasn't in doing one thing well. It was in combining seemingly unrelated things into something remarkable. If you want to think out of the box, stop thinking in straight lines. Start playing with ideas. Be curious about how a business principle might apply to relationships, or how nature's design might inspire technology, or how ancient philosophy might solve modern problems. That's where true creativity lies, in mixing what doesn't obviously go together and watching something new emerge. The box that limits most people's thinking is made of categories. They separate life into neat little compartments. But the most brilliant ideas come from breaking those compartments open and letting the contents spill into each other. So ask yourself, what worlds can I mix? What strange combinations can I explore? What if I stopped asking, what's the right answer? And started asking, what if I combine this with that? When you begin to blend the unblendable, you don't just think outside the box. You erase the box entirely. Chapter 6. Surround yourself with thought expanders. No matter how strong, independent, or intelligent you are, the people you surround yourself with will inevitably shape the way you think. Human beings are social creatures. Our thoughts are influenced by the conversations we hear, the beliefs we're exposed to, and the attitudes we absorb from others, often without realizing it. And this influence can either stretch your mind or shrink it. If you spend most of your time with people who think small, complain constantly, fear change, and stick to routine, their mindset will quietly become your own. Not because you agree with them, but because their energy becomes your environment. And the environment you live in eventually becomes the limit of your imagination. But if you intentionally place yourself around thought expanders, people who challenge you, question the norm, and live with boldness, you begin to grow without even trying. Their way of thinking becomes contagious. You start to ask better questions. You stop accepting the default answers. You begin to explore, create, and reach beyond your old limits. Thought expanders come in many forms. They may be mentors, teachers, friends, or even authors and thinkers you've never met. Sometimes, a single conversation can open your mind in ways years of schooling never could. It's not about finding people who always agree with you. It's about finding those who inspire you to think differently, who introduce you to new perspectives, and who won't let you settle for mediocrity. You should actively seek out people who make you slightly uncomfortable, not because they're negative, but because their ideas stretch yours. Be around those who have done what you dream of doing. Surround yourself with individuals who read deeply, question assumptions, and live intentionally. Observe how they speak, how they solve problems, how they carry themselves. You'll begin to realize that thinking beyond limits isn't just about motivation, it's about immersion. The truth is, your mental environment matters as much as your physical one. You wouldn't grow a flower in toxic soil and expect it to bloom. So why would you try to grow a limitless mind in a limited circle? But remember, thought expanders don't just give you answers. They give you awareness. They won't tell you how to live. They'll show you how big life can be. And that shift in perspective is priceless. It changes your internal standard. Suddenly, the things you once thought were too big or unrealistic start to feel possible, even natural. This chapter isn't about abandoning people in your life who think differently. It's about protecting your mental space. You can love people and still limit their influence on your vision. You can be kind without compromising your growth. The goal is not to judge others, it's to elevate yourself. Fill your world with those who talk about ideas instead of gossip, people who speak with intention, not impulse, people who see failure as feedback, not a verdict, people who would rather build something meaningful than chase shallow validation. When you surround yourself with thought expanders, your reality begins to stretch. Your vocabulary changes, your ambition increases, your patience deepens, and most importantly, your limits begin to dissolve. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you rise to the level of your environment. So build an environment that makes small thinking impossible. Chapter 6. Surround yourself with thought expanders. Your environment shapes your reality far more than you think. Not just the physical environment, but the mental one. The conversations you hear, the attitudes you absorb, the beliefs you tolerate, and the energy you allow into your space, all silently build the boundaries of your thinking. Most people don't outgrow their potential. They outgrow their circle. Because when you're surrounded by small thinkers, it becomes almost impossible to dream big. If everyone around you fears risk, you'll start to play it safe. If everyone around you complains, you'll start to feel burdened. If everyone around you settles, you'll start to question your own ambition. And the danger is, it happens silently. You don't even realize your thinking is shrinking, until one day you look up and see that your vision has been reduced to fit the comfort of those around you. That's why the fastest way to expand your mind is to expand your environment. You need to be around people who live at the edge of possibility, people who speak in terms of purpose, impact, creativity, and courage, people who don't flinch at failure, who don't follow trends, who aren't waiting for permission to chase something bold. These are thought expanders, the ones who don't just think differently, but live differently. And when you're around them, your world starts to open up. Thought expanders don't give you advice that keeps you safe. They ask questions that force you to stretch. They challenge your excuses. They hold a mirror to your thinking, not to criticize, but to reveal where you've been stuck in cycles too small for your potential. They introduce new ideas, They offer alternate viewpoints. They push you, not out of judgment, but because they see what you're capable of. You might find them in your community. You might discover them in books. You might follow them online. It doesn't matter where they come from. What matters is that you allow their influence to elevate your internal standard. And make no mistake, your internal standard is everything. It defines what you tolerate, what you pursue, what you believe is realistic. The more time you spend in the presence of elevated minds, the more your baseline of what's possible begins to rise. Things that once felt far-fetched begin to feel natural. Conversations shift from problems to solutions, from complaining to building, from limitations to opportunities. It's also important to understand that thought expanders aren't always comfortable to be around. They might say things that challenge your identity. They might question beliefs you've held for years. But that discomfort is good. Growth never happens in comfort. It happens in tension, when the current you is stretched by the future you trying to emerge. You must also become intentional about protecting your mental space from the opposite of thought expanders, the energy drainers. These are the people who pull you into gossip, fear, distraction, or self-doubt. They might not mean harm, but their mindset can be infectious. And if you absorb too much of it, you start to operate at their level, thinking in circles instead of straight lines, surviving instead of creating. This doesn't mean you need to cut everyone off, but it does mean you must curate your influences the same way you would your diet. If you want a healthy body, you watch what you eat. If you want a powerful mind, you must watch what you allow in, what you listen to, who you give your time to, what conversations you entertain. Look at your inner circle. Are they encouraging growth or validating comfort? Are they pushing you forward or pulling you back? Are they expanding your thinking or keeping you in the same loop? And ask yourself this: if I spent the next 5 years in this exact circle, who would I become? Your future depends on your answer. So surround yourself with the daring, the disciplined, the curious, the bold, people who live by principles, not trends, people who don't just dream, they build. People who remind you that there's always a higher level to reach, a better question to ask, a greater version of yourself waiting to be revealed. You don't have to walk alone, but you do have to walk with intention, because when you walk with thought expanders, thinking beyond limits becomes your new normal. Chapter 7. Visualize without boundaries. Before anything becomes real, it must first exist in the mind. Every invention, every achievement, every transformation began as a picture in someone's imagination. That's the unseen power of visualization. It's the blueprint of your future. Yet most people rarely use it. Not because they can't, but because they've trained their minds to imagine limitations instead of possibilities. Visualization is more than daydreaming. It's not wishful thinking. It's a focused mental rehearsal that programs your mind and body to believe in and move toward your vision. But the key to powerful visualization is freedom. You must learn to imagine without boundaries, no filters, no edits, no doubt. You have to allow your mind to go places your current reality has never been. Most people visualize problems. They rehearse fear. They imagine worst-case scenarios over and over until it becomes their emotional baseline. And the brain, not knowing the difference between imagined experience and actual reality, responds with stress, hesitation, and fear. The result: their life becomes a reflection of what they've been feeding their mind. But what if you flipped the script? What if instead of replaying the past, you started pre-playing the future? When you visualize with intention, clarity, and emotion, you're not just thinking, you're training. You're creating mental pathways that prepare your body, your focus, and your energy to pursue what you desire without resistance. High performers, athletes, and creators all use this tool. They don't just hope things will work out. They see it, they feel it, they experience it mentally before it becomes physical. To think beyond limits, you must develop the courage to imagine beyond them first. This means releasing the internal voice that says, "That's too big, that's not for me," or "That could never happen." Those thoughts are not facts. They're leftovers from your past programming. And if you keep letting your past dictate your vision, you'll never outgrow your circumstances. Start by asking yourself, what would I visualize if I wasn't afraid? What kind of life would I design if I believed nothing was off limits? Don't just think in terms of material goals. Visualize your mindset, your energy, the way you move through the world. Imagine yourself walking with calm confidence, speaking with clarity, making decisions without doubt, living each day with purpose and power. The more vivid and consistent your vision becomes, the more your subconscious begins to accept it as reality. It starts filtering the world differently. You notice opportunities you would have missed. You take actions you would have avoided. You start aligning with the version of yourself that once only existed in your imagination. But consistency is key. You can't just visualize once and expect magic. It's a mental workout, a daily discipline. Every time you visualize your higher self, you're sending your mind a signal. This is where we're going. Every time you return to that mental movie, you're reinforcing belief, and belief drives behavior. Also, don't wait for proof. That's the trap. People say, "I'll believe it when I see it." But the truth is, you'll see it when you believe it. Visualization is the art of believing in the unseen and trusting that your mind can lead your reality forward. There are no limits to what the mind can conceive, only the ones you choose to obey. So give yourself permission to imagine without borders. Go bigger, go deeper. Build a vision so powerful that it pulls you forward, even on your hardest days. Because the clearer you can see it, the closer it becomes. And once your mind truly believes it's possible, the rest of you will follow. Chapter 8. Make discomfort your new home. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding discomfort. They structure their days to feel safe, predictable, and in control. And while there's nothing wrong with wanting stability, the relentless pursuit of comfort comes with a heavy price. It traps you in a cycle of mediocrity. Growth, by nature, is uncomfortable. Expansion, by definition, pushes you beyond what you already know. So if you want to think beyond limits, you must make discomfort your new home. We've been conditioned to see discomfort as a warning sign, something to run from. But discomfort is not danger. It's a signal that you're entering new territory, that your old habits, beliefs, and limits are being challenged, that you're stepping beyond the known into the unknown. And that's exactly where transformation lives. Every time you feel uncertain, afraid, awkward, out of place, pay attention. That's not failure. That's growth in motion. But most people feel that tension and immediately retreat. They think, "This doesn't feel right," and they stop. But that's the mistake. Discomfort isn't something to escape. It's something to embrace. It's the gym where mental strength is built. And the more you avoid it, the weaker your thinking becomes. Think about every skill you've ever learned. Walking, speaking, driving, public speaking, starting something new. It all felt strange at first. You stumbled. You doubted yourself. You wanted to quit. But you didn't, and now it feels natural. That's how growth works. Uncomfortable first, automatic later. The same applies to thinking. Expanding your mind doesn't feel easy. Questioning old beliefs can shake your identity. Being around thought expanders can make you feel inferior at first. Challenging the rules you once lived by can make you feel lost. But all of that is necessary. Because discomfort is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're doing something different. To break mental limits, you have to stop seeking emotional comfort and start seeking mental challenge. That means saying yes to the hard conversation. It means showing up even when you feel unprepared. It means choosing growth over pride. Discomfort becomes the compass. If it scares you and excites you at the same time, it's probably the right direction. Comfort zones are mental cages dressed up as safety. They make you feel in control, but they keep you exactly where you are. And what's worse is that the longer you stay comfortable, the harder it becomes to leave. You begin to fear the very things that would set you free. You reject opportunities that could reshape your life simply because they require effort, exposure, or risk. And without knowing it, you trade potential for peace. But that's not real peace. It's stagnation. Making discomfort your home doesn't mean you have to suffer. It means you have to normalize challenge. It means you have to build a life where struggle doesn't scare you, because you've trained your mind to see it as part of the path. When others panic, you breathe. When others avoid, you approach. When others quit, you get curious. That mindset doesn't happen overnight. It happens every time you choose discomfort on purpose. Start small. Wake up earlier than you want to. Say no when it's easier to say yes. Try something you've never done. Ask the question no one else is asking. Speak your truth in a room that expects silence. These are the tiny discomforts that build a giant mindset. If you want to live a life that few dare to imagine, you have to think in ways few are willing to try. And that means doing what's uncomfortable, not once, but consistently. It means rewiring your relationship with fear, uncertainty, and tension. It means turning the unknown into your training ground. Because the real power doesn't come from avoiding discomfort. It comes from mastering it. And once you do that, there is no limit left to fear. Chapter 9. Turn thought into action. Thinking beyond limits is powerful. It reshapes your beliefs, unlocks your imagination, and gives you access to ideas you never thought possible. But if all of that remains in your head, it means nothing. Thought is potential. Action is transformation. The world isn't changed by ideas alone. It's changed by those who dare to act on them. You can spend your life dreaming, planning, visualizing, journaling, and learning. But until you move, nothing moves. Until you act, nothing changes. And this is where most people get stuck. They wait for the perfect plan, the perfect time, the perfect confidence. They overthink, hesitate, delay. But the truth is, clarity doesn't come before action. It comes through action. The mind loves to stay in motion without movement. It can trick you into thinking that thinking alone is progress. You feel productive because you're busy mentally, but your outer world stays the same. The limit is no longer in your imagination. It's in your hesitation. To escape this trap, you must learn to treat action as a discipline, not a reaction. Don't wait to feel ready. Train yourself to move while you're unsure. The greatest thinkers didn't just imagine bold ideas, they executed them. They failed, adjusted, improved, and kept going. They didn't confuse inspiration for execution. They understood that thought without action is just potential left unused. There's a reason the most successful people are often the most consistent, not the smartest, or even the most creative. They simply act, every day, even when it's hard, even when it's uncertain, even when it's boring. They don't wait for motivation. They move from commitment. And every small action becomes a step out of the box. Start small. One idea, one step, one decision. Action builds momentum, and momentum rewires your self-belief. Suddenly, you're no longer someone who thinks about doing things. You become someone who does things. That shift in identity is everything. Because once you begin seeing yourself as a doer, the limits that once held you lose their power. Don't let fear of failure stop you. Don't let perfection paralyze you. Don't wait to be confident. Let action build your confidence. Every step forward, even the messy ones, is a declaration that you're not just here to think beyond limits. You're here to live beyond them. Remember, knowledge isn't power until it's applied. Ideas don't grow until they're planted in the soil of real life. Bold thoughts demand bold follow-through. You've come this far in your mind. Now bring it into the world. Take the leap, make the call, launch the idea, speak the truth, build the thing. Whatever it is, start. Because in the end, it's not the thoughts you had that will define your life. It's the actions you took because of them. Would you like me to write a final conclusion that wraps the entire book powerfully and leaves a lasting impression on the listener? Chapter 10. Live the Unboxed Life. You've broken mental walls, questioned silent rules, embraced failure, stretched your imagination, and turned thought into motion. But the final step isn't just to think outside the box. It's to live outside it. Because true freedom doesn't come from moments of clarity. It comes from a life built on that clarity. And that requires a commitment to living differently every single day. Most people live in quiet frustration, not because they're lazy, but because they're boxed in by identities they didn't choose. They wear labels assigned to them by society: student, worker, parent, failure, success, introvert, extrovert. They play roles, follow routines, and make decisions from a script they didn't write. And then they wonder why life feels empty. Living the unboxed life means throwing away the script. It means letting go of who you're supposed to be so you can become who you truly are. It means trusting your internal compass more than external noise. It means building a life not around comfort or approval, but around meaning, growth, and truth. But here's the paradox. The moment you decide to live freely, the world will push back. People will question you. They'll tell you you've changed. They'll warn you to be realistic. They'll pressure you to get back inside the box, because your freedom threatens their comfort. You must learn to be unmoved by their opinions. You are not here to live a copy of someone else's life. You are here to live yours, fully, wildly, honestly. An unboxed life is not reckless, it's intentional. It's about designing your days around what matters most to you, not what impresses others. It's waking up with purpose, not obligation. It's saying yes to what expands you and no to what shrinks you. It's understanding that success isn't defined by metrics, it's defined by alignment. When who you are matches how you live, that's success. And no box can contain that. This path is not easy. You will outgrow people. You will face resistance. You will confront your own fears. But every challenge is proof that you are evolving. The box may feel safe, but it was never built for your highest potential. Growth happens where the rules end and your own vision begins. So what does an unboxed life look like? It looks like starting a business others don't understand, but you believe in it with every cell of your being. It looks like changing careers at 40 because you finally chose fulfillment over status. It looks like speaking your truth even when your voice shakes. It looks like moving to a new city, leaving behind everything familiar because your soul outgrew your surroundings. It looks like living for you. It looks like freedom. And here's the final truth. You don't need anyone's permission to live this way. You only need your own. You've done the mental work. You've challenged the boundaries. You've practiced boldness, embraced discomfort, and taken action. Now it's time to let that mindset guide your entire life. Not just your thoughts, but your choices. Not just your words, but your habits. Live like someone who refuses to be boxed in ever again. Because you weren't born to fit in, you were born to break through. And once you choose to live the unboxed life, there's no going back. Only forward, only deeper, only freer. Chapter 11. Protect your mental freedom. It's one thing to break free. It's another to stay free. And that's what this final chapter is about. Protecting your mental freedom once you've earned it. Because the truth is, the world will always try to pull you back into the box, not out of malice, but out of habit, comfort, fear, expectation. And unless you consciously guard your new way of thinking, the old patterns will quietly return and rebuild the walls you worked so hard to tear down. Mental freedom is not a one-time event. It's a lifestyle, a commitment, a discipline. You don't just wake up one day with a liberated mind and keep it without effort. You have to fight for it, nurture it, and defend it. Especially in a world that profits off your distraction, conformity, and self-doubt. Protecting your mental freedom means being vigilant about what you allow into your consciousness. Every conversation you entertain, every piece of content you consume, every opinion you absorb, is either reinforcing your freedom or chipping away at it. And most of the time, the erosion is subtle. It looks like tolerating toxic energy. It looks like endlessly scrolling through noise. It looks like staying silent when you should speak. It looks like watering yourself down to be liked. You must become fiercely protective of your internal space. That means setting boundaries, not just with people, but with your own thoughts. You are not obligated to engage with every fear that enters your mind. You are not required to believe every limiting belief that whispers to you in moments of weakness. You can observe these thoughts, question them, and replace them with something better. That is freedom. Not the absence of negative thoughts, but the refusal to be ruled by them. Mental freedom also means choosing growth daily, even when no one is watching. It means doing the hard thing, the uncomfortable thing, the thing that aligns with your higher self, not because it's easy, but because it's right. It means remembering your vision when the world distracts you with comfort. It means staying focused on what matters, not what's loud. And in moments of chaos, it means returning to silence, not as escape, but as power. Because a free mind is a still mind, a mind not pulled in every direction, a mind that listens more than it reacts, that observes before it speaks, that questions before it accepts, and that chooses peace over performance, purpose over pressure. To protect your mental freedom, you must also surround yourself with those who respect it. People who celebrate your growth, not resent it. People who challenge you without trying to control you. People who don't feed your ego, but feed your evolution. Choose relationships that expand your mind, not cages that make you shrink to fit someone else's comfort zone. Understand this. The more mentally free you become, the more you'll stand out. The more your silence will speak. The more your actions will confuse people still living inside the box. And that's okay. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to understand yourself. The price of mental freedom is constant awareness, constant discipline, but the reward? Peace that cannot be stolen, vision that cannot be shaken, power that doesn't need to shout, and a life that is truly yours. So protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. Your freedom is your foundation. Guard it, respect it, live by it. Chapter 12. The journey has no end. You've traveled far. You've questioned the unquestioned. You've torn down walls in your mind that stood for years. You've challenged the rules, embraced failure, stretched your imagination, acted boldly, and begun to live beyond the edges of what once defined you. But if there's one final truth you must carry with you, it's this: the journey has no end. There is no final destination when it comes to thinking beyond limits. No mountaintop where you plant a flag and declare, "I've made it." The journey is not about arriving. It's about becoming. Every breakthrough leads to another layer. Every insight opens another door. Every moment of clarity invites deeper questions. This can feel overwhelming at first. You might think, will I ever feel like I've figured it all out? But the honest answer is, you're not supposed to. The goal isn't to arrive at a perfect understanding of life. The goal is to remain engaged with life, to remain a student, a seeker, a questioner, to move forward not because you lack something, but because you love the process of evolving. Growth is not a phase, it's your nature. Trees don't stop reaching for the sky. Rivers don't stop flowing toward the ocean. Stars don't stop burning. So why should you stop expanding just because you've come farther than others? There is always more to explore, more to understand, more to unlearn, and more of yourself to meet. Living beyond limits is not a moment. It's a mindset. It's the way you move through the world. With curiosity, not certainty. With humility, not ego. With presence, not pressure. And with a deep knowing that this life, this gift of existence, isn't about playing it safe. It's about discovering how far you can go when you stop holding yourself back. Yes, there will be days when you forget. Days when the old box feels familiar. When fear tries to disguise itself as logic. When doubt whispers louder than purpose. But that's not failure. That's a reminder. A nudge from life asking, are you still awake? Are you still choosing to grow? The answer must be yes. You will fall. You will get lost. You will question yourself. But you will always rise. You will always find your center again. And each time, you'll return wiser, stronger, and more clear. Never mistake movement for progress, but never mistake stillness for stagnation either. Sometimes the most powerful shifts happen in the quiet. Sometimes expansion means doing less, but doing it more intentionally. Sometimes it means letting go of control and allowing life to surprise you. This is the essence of thinking beyond limits. Not forcing your way into greatness, but removing the limits that block what was always within you. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about returning to who you've always been, before fear, before rules, before doubt. So let this final chapter be your beginning, a reminder that you are the author, the architect, the observer, and the creator. There is no end point, only deeper levels. And every time you reach one, ask yourself, what else is possible now? Because the journey of a limitless mind is the journey of a limitless life. Would you like a final epilogue or a short, memorable closing quote or call to action to leave your audience inspired? Chapter 13. Leave a trail behind. You weren't just meant to break free, you were meant to show others that they can too. Thinking beyond limits isn't only a personal journey, it's a ripple effect. When you break out of the box, you don't just liberate yourself, you create a path for others to follow. You become proof that it's possible, that the impossible is negotiable. that the rules can be rewritten, and that one person thinking differently can change everything. Most people don't need more instructions. They need examples. They need to see someone who questioned the script, someone who fell, rose, and kept going, someone who chose their own truth over popular opinion. That someone is you. But leaving a trail doesn't mean preaching or forcing anyone to change. It means embodying your freedom so completely that it speaks louder than any words ever could. Your calm presence, your choices, your energy, your courage. That's what inspires people, not because you're telling them what to do, but because you're showing them how possible it is to live fully and honestly. Legacy isn't built by loud declarations. It's built by quiet revolutions. Every time you break a generational cycle, you leave a trail. Every time you question a cultural rule that never made sense, you leave a trail. Every time you choose authenticity over approval or purpose over popularity, you carve a path through the forest so someone else doesn't have to walk through it blind. Understand this. Most people are waiting for permission, waiting for a sign, waiting for someone to go first. So go first. Be the one who stops pretending. Be the one who leaves the job that looks good on paper but kills your spirit. Be the one who chooses presence over performance. Be the one who builds something from nothing, not for applause, but because you believe in it. And don't wait until you're perfect. You'll never be. That's not the point. The point is progress. The point is motion. The point is truth. Your trail doesn't need to be clean. It just needs to be real, honest, lived, felt. And when you live this way, you'll notice something beautiful. People will begin to shift just by watching you. Not because you told them how, but because you showed them what's possible. That's how movements begin, not with noise, but with action. Leaving a trail also means lifting others as you rise. Celebrate those who think differently. Encourage those who are just starting. Remind them that fear is normal, but so is strength. Give them space to grow without comparison. Be the voice in the room that says, "It's okay to do it your way." And most importantly, make sure the trail you leave behind doesn't lead back to the box. Let it lead to wide open fields, to uncharted waters, to places where the soul breathes freely and the mind can expand forever. Because when you leave a trail, you're not just thinking beyond limits. You're living beyond yourself. This is the final evolution of your journey, not just to escape the cage, but to leave the door open behind you. To walk so boldly, so freely, so unapologetically, that others find the courage to do the same. So don't just go far, go deep, go wide, go real. And when you look back, let there be footprints, let there be signs. Let there be evidence that someone once walked through fear and came out free. That someone was you. Chapter 14. The only permission you need is your own. Most people wait their entire lives for permission they never needed in the first place. Permission to start. Permission to speak. Permission to leave. Permission to shine. Permission to think differently. Permission to live fully. They wait for someone to validate their ideas, to approve their dreams, to tell them it's okay to be who they truly are. But that validation rarely comes, because the world isn't built to hand you permission. It's built to hand you rules, expectations, labels, and limits. And the longer you wait for someone else to free you, the longer you remain trapped in a version of life that's not your own. But here's the truth. You were never meant to ask. You were meant to decide, to declare, to create. No one else can see what you see. No one else can live what you feel. No one else hears the call inside you every day, the one that whispers, "There's more." And that's why only you can grant yourself the right to pursue it, the right to change, the right to rise, the right to be more than what they expected. You don't need permission to rewrite your story. You don't need permission to outgrow who you were. You don't need permission to leave environments that don't support your growth. You don't need permission to walk away from what drains you. You don't need permission to say no, even if you once said yes. You don't need permission to be different. What you need is ownership. Ownership of your life, your choices, your path. That kind of inner authority can't be given. It must be claimed. And when you claim it, everything begins to change. You stop seeking external approval because you've finally approved of yourself. You stop trying to fit into rooms that weren't built for you. You stop diluting your voice just to keep others comfortable. You stop apologizing for your growth, your ambition, your evolution. The need for permission is one of the final mental boxes you must break. It's often invisible, hidden under respect, humility, or waiting your turn. But underneath it all, it's fear. Fear of being rejected, misunderstood, or alone. And that fear will rule your life if you let it. But here's what's more powerful than fear: truth. When you live in your truth, boldly, honestly, without shame, you don't need validation. Your life becomes the permission. Your decisions become the evidence. Your courage becomes the message. And let's be clear, giving yourself permission doesn't mean you know everything. It doesn't mean you'll never doubt or stumble. It means you trust yourself enough to begin. It means you no longer ask the world if it's okay to be yourself. It means you become the authority in your own life. The truth is, no one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you the life you dream about. That's your job, your responsibility, your right. And that's the most liberating thing you'll ever realize. Because once you stop waiting, you start building, you stop hesitating, and you start living. From this moment on, let this be your internal vow. I will no longer wait. Not for permission, not for validation, not for the perfect moment. The moment is now. The permission is mine. Because the only gatekeeper of your future is you. You have now walked through every chapter, each one peeling back the layers of limitation that once quietly defined your world. You've seen how most boundaries are illusions, how the box, this mental container built by fear, by rules, by other people's opinions, was never real to begin with. It only had power because you believed it did. But you've challenged that belief. You've learned to question inherited truths, to unlearn what no longer serves you, to visualize a reality far beyond what you were taught to accept. You've embraced discomfort, found power in failure, transformed thought into action, and realized that the permission you were waiting for was yours to give all along. This book was never about becoming someone new. It was about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. It was about reclaiming your mind, your voice, your choices. It was about stepping into a life designed from the inside out, not shaped by expectation, but sculpted by awareness. But now comes the most important part: living it. Not for one day, not in rare moments of courage, but every single day, in how you speak, how you show up, how you think, how you choose. You don't need more inspiration. You need repetition, intention, alignment. You need to practice the mindset you've now claimed, because your new reality is not built through words. It's built through consistency. There will be days when you forget, when the old thoughts return, when the walls feel like they're closing in again. And in those moments you must remember, You already have the key. You always did. And once you know that, no box, real or imagined, can hold you anymore. You are not here to follow. You are here to lead, to create, to challenge, to awaken, to leave a trail that others can follow. So leave it boldly. Think differently. Live freely. Act courageously. And never shrink again to fit inside a box that was never worthy of your soul. Because from this moment forward, your mind belongs to you, and a free mind can build anything.